CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan, I think he pronounces it Donnie O'Sullivan. He interviewed Hasan Piker in the wake of...
My goat. The fact that streamers are now beefing with CNN gives me hope. My goat Kyle, even with that hair, did a video defending my ass. And I love that.
Of Kamala's loss. There was an actual Hasan Piker segment on CNN in the wake of Kamala's loss where they try to get his take like, hey, why did she lose? So in other words, they're now acknowledging that there are lefty streamers and podcasters who get decent numbers because, of course, you know, the right sort of dominates the podcast space more generally, and Trump went on a whole bunch of podcasts that are either overtly right-wing or like non-political but lean right socially and culturally. You know, we went on Andrew Schultz's podcast and Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan, and you even had J.D. Vance went on Tim Dillon's show. And so this space, which is nominally non-political but certainly leans right, it led to the impression, man, this podcast base is just flat out right-wing. Democrats don't have the infrastructure to compete with it. And look, that's...
Damn, when did Kyle move to Flavortown? Long time ago.
Kind of bullshit, right? Because you're never going to get a left-wing space online that truly rivals the behemoth that is the right online, because there's so much big money backing the right online. And to be fair, when I say that, I'm thinking more of like, you know, the Daily Wires of the world. That's a massive operation that has massive funding from billionaires. And you have this like marriage of like the right-wing think tanks and this right-wing online media infrastructure. And then, of course, you have Rogan is an absolute behemoth. He didn't come up overtly political, but he's become more political over time. Of course, he has a massive multi-$100 million deal with Spotify, or at least he did. And whereas, look, on the Democratic side, the left, it's hard for the left to build out infrastructure like that because nobody would fund the left, because the left says we want to tax the corporations, right? We want billionaires and wealthy people to have less money, and we want to redistribute the wealth to the working class. And so you're not going to find an investor who's too keen on that idea. But having said that, given all of like the institutional biases...
Yeah, it'd be the dumbest fucking investment of all time. Hey, I'm going to go invest money into a propaganda mouthpiece whose primary purpose is to make me not exist, okay? My level of wealth inequality must not exist. And as a very wealthy guy, I'm just going to dump a shitload of money into people that, you know, proudly and loudly say that over and over again.
Against the left, there are, of course, outlets that are on the left, or there are individual podcasters or streamers who are on the left. Some of them a little more Democratic Party adjacent, like your Brian Tyler Cohen's, for example. Some of them a little bit more outsiders, like your Hasan, for example. But it's interesting that now this is probably the first time that I've seen a genuine acknowledgement of, yeah, there actually is some Democratic media, some liberal media, and some left-wing media. So CNN went and spoke to Hasan Piker. And here we have not only what Hasan said, but the reaction from Bakari Sellers, which is interesting to say the least. So let's watch, and then I'll break it down for you.
Hasan Piker is a social media superstar, really, with almost 3 million followers on the video streaming platform Twitch. Yeah. He's a progressive fan of Bernie Sanders. So popular, Democratic Party invited him to the DNC in August, and he sat down with CNN's Donnie O'Sullivan.
And by the way, didn't he get kicked out? I think he got kicked out towards the end. Correct me if I'm wrong. Put it below.
Here's a little bit.
There's a general sense that when it comes to the world of podcasts,
we let bygones be bygones.
You want to call
we let bygones be bygones.
Call it that Trump did a much better job at that than Democrats and Harris.
Absolutely. I think that's true.
Harris did consider going on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
But she didn't. What is it that the Democrat Party has to do differently?
Well, I think that they need to change their policies.
It's a policy thing.
Yes, it's 100% a policy thing. Which is the boring answer. Although it would be very self-serving for me to say, I'm the left's Joe Rogan, the Democratic Party should give me millions of dollars. That's not going to solve this problem. What will solve this problem is if the Democratic Party actually adopts real left-wing economic populist messaging instead of purposefully avoiding that stuff because they're terrified of upsetting their corporate donors. I think Trump speaks to mail insecurities better, and I think Trump speaks to the anger that people have, whereas the other side of the political spectrum does not speak to that anger at all.
Joining us right now, CNN senior political commentator Bakari Sellers, and Lance Trover, the former spokesperson for Doug Burgum when he was running in the Republican presidential primary. It's good to see you guys. Thank you. Bakari, what do you think of all that? What Hasan Piker was telling Donnie?
I wish he was paying attention. I mean, it's patently absurd to say that he wishes that Kamala Harris would adopt some populist economic policies. Was he talking about the fact that she wanted to build 3 million new homes with housing tax credits, or was he talking about the child tax credit or the earned income tax credit?
You guys have heard my commentary on this, obviously. It's so funny to be like, that's called populism. You don't understand. You don't know what populism is. Thanks, man. This anti-Semitic streamer is coming to my university tomorrow. Could you give me a quote to read back to him? Is his name? What level of anti-Semitism are we working with? Is he like, does he believe the Nakba happened? Because that's like really anti-Semitic, right? Or is he just like, is he a Nakba believer and also simultaneously a person who says that Israel is currently committing a genocide? Because that's like, you know, paired up together, that's like the maximum. Folded immediately. I think they're just memeing and they're just excited to see me at the meet and greet tomorrow. Nothing is as anti-Semitic as saying Sabra hummus sucks, though. Bill Maher threatens to quit HBO's Real Time due to Trump fatigue. Oh my God, I'll nut. HBO. Give me the show. Give me Bill Maher's show. Kind of wild. Hasan does a bid and doesn't want to have a conversation. I don't know. People want clicks, I guess. At least invite me to the dialogue in your head. Bakari, you Apex shill. Hasan just read this tweet live and said he's down to have you on, and he's never had an issue with that. God damn. My fans are ripping into him. By the way, I didn't know that Bakari Sellers wanted to come on the broadcast. Like, I'm down to have him on when I come back from London. I don't know why he thinks like I am terrified of him. Lol, I'm right here. I don't understand. Does he want to have a conversation on Twitter? Because I don't think that's going to work in his favor. Because I cooked his ass once already and I could cook him again. You know what I mean? Damn, this one banged. That's it. I don't think Americans could pull some shit off like this. Not going to lie. 92,000 likes. Holy fuck. He don't watch the stream. I know. This is the first thing I tweeted about offline TV, and someone got mad at me. Someone got mad at me and was like, why are you joking about this? The situation is fucked. I was like, bro, I'm American. Like, I know the situation is fucked. Calm down. You'll be watching when it's happening to us in a couple months. Yeah, I said, don't worry. He said, Hasan, coming from someone who's a career at the moment, do you think this is the most appropriate response? I said, I'm in the US, don't worry. I'm going to be eating that same shit soon. This is serious, not something to joke about. Dude, if we can't have a little bit of gallows humor, I don't know what to tell you, okay? We're all fucking cooked. We're all in it together. Admit it, you're not just visiting the UK, you're immigrating to Keir Stalin's Britain. Yes. I know Keir Stalin is going to bring back workers' councils, and I want to be there for that, okay? Mick Lynch has actually tapped me as one of his enforcers, and that's why I'm here. Chad, I have an announcement. I am immigrating. I'm going to be an expat to the fucking UK. Sorry, bro. The glaze is too far. Oh no, you put, bro, I got 3 holes for a reason. Which LeBron you taking? Ending my day with a king inside me. Hope you finally feel some fucking shame. No, I reposted one of my LeBron Glaze TikToks that made it to the TikTok timeline. I saw it when I was in the bathroom. When I was in the bathroom of the airport. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Where is it? Wait, did he get fucking... Oh, here. If LeBron played basketball with me one time and, like, you know, maybe help me fix my shot mechanics or something, maybe show me like a post move, I would probably die after that moment. I could die happy. Actually, I wouldn't want to die because he would be taken aback by my fucking good ass vibes and also the potential that I have. And then maybe he'd even call me son on accident. And then I'd be like, don't worry, dad. It's all good. And then we'd basically play basketball all the time. He'd hit me up and be like, yo, honestly, it's cool. Like, we should just ball up more. Guys, don't talk about LeBron James' performance last night. Okay, do not. It was, he still got 10. Number one, he still got 10. So the streak is alive. Number two, okay, those weren't actually air balls. I actually investigated it. It actually was a super secret wind weapon. That's right. A super secret wind weapon that they unleashed. They have wind wizards. Okay. The dark arts. And you know how LeBron does that like satanic ritual before the game every time? He like throws up like the fucking Baphomet hand signals and whatever. Like he forgot to do it that night. And turns out he was always doing that because he was trying to fight the necromancers. Okay. And unfortunately, he didn't do it that night. And the weather machine and the airbenders and like the wizards that have control over the wind, they were able to finally get together and make it seem as though he's washed and an old man. And I think that's ageist. I think that's racist. And I think you guys don't understand what happened, what took place. I know I saw the stat lines, okay? A lot of attempts, a lot of misses. It's not his fault. And then we'd become besties. And then we'd go get tacos on Taco Tuesday. And, you know, we'd eat tacos together. It would be sick. If LeBron played basketball with me, LeBron should not be the one fixing a shot after missing 33 straight. See, this is the slander. This is the type of slander. Y'all the same age, though. This ain't even Glaze for real. This is what I'm talking about. It's not Glaze if he deserves it. Not even Glaze for real. See, that's the thing. Like, you're not actually glazing LeBron. You're just giving him the appropriate amount of praise he deserves. It's not Glaze, it's praise. Now, this is not a real tweet. I didn't say that. At least I didn't say it out loud. right? I didn't say it publicly. I didn't say it out loud. This is obviously Photoshop. Just because it's in line with things that I have said in the past, like I'm not going to condemn this. I will condemn the fact that it's not a real tweet, okay? But like on principle, I'm not going to like. All right, let's just move on. Actually, let's get back to Kyle.
I mean, the economic policies that she laid out were numerous, and she was the one who actually put forth policy plans. She put forth policy plans for African American males. She put forth policy plans for Hispanic voters. So, I mean, I find it really troubling when people want to have a policy discussion. The fact is, more people know what was in Drake's lawsuit against UNG, and they've actually studied that more than they studied Kamala Harris's policy proposals on social media. So I don't really want to hear a conversation about she should have put forth more economic policy proposals when that was not the issue in this race at all.
Okay. Let me react to this. So on the overarching point, on the macro point, Hasan is completely correct, and I'll break that down in a second. There is a micro point here, though, where Bakari's not wrong. So Bakari's not wrong because there was a blind study that was done, and in that blind study, 80% of the voters preferred Kamala Harris's policies to Trump's policies, right? So this is not just about policy. It's not.
Yeah, I recognize that as well. I also see that as a failure of the campaign, for the record. I see that as a failure of the campaign. It's a communications failure. It's a failure of the administration, and it's a failure of the campaign. That's it. It always is the problem of the campaign. It is never the fault of the voters. Oh, man, they didn't pay attention. Oh, man, they didn't understand all the good things. You know? They didn't understand all the good things that we were offering. It's like, no, dude. You didn't communicate it. That's it.
It's not just about policy. Now, having said that, Hasan is right on the macro point for this reason. Because what Hasan is saying is, look, you have to be in favor of the big, bold, populist policies, but you have to tie that together with a grand narrative of here are the villains and here are the good guys. And we're on the side of the good guys and we're going to fight these villains to improve your life. And that's where the Democrats go wrong, is they are technocratic status quo managers. They're eggheads. They say, here's my list of policies. Take a look and tell me if you like it. And it's very like, it's like box checking type attitude, right? And that's not going to work, especially because voters just didn't believe Kamala, right? They didn't believe it. If you ask people, hey, what's Trump about? Trump, they say, oh, he's in favor of cracking down on immigration, right? Like there's an answer there. In Trump's conception of the world, you need to, for all of your problems, you need to blame immigrants, you need to blame trans people, you need to blame Hollywood and cultural elites and democratic elites. They are the cause of all of your problems, and I am going to fight for you.
And he also did a good job of being like, you feel the pressure of the economy. And you know who's at fault? Immigrants. I'm going to save you from that. He would recognize the anger and frustration that people felt, and then he would redirect that specifically towards an area that he's comfortable fighting in. And then Democrats were like, okay, we'll swim in these treacherous waters with you. It's like, no, that's their water. Okay, this is why I always say, I don't go to the neighborhood where sharks are. I don't swim in their water. And they respect me for it. But if I catch a shark walking down the street, I'll beat his ass. Okay? If I see a shark out of the water, I'm kicking him in the fucking face. Because he's dying anyway. He can't breathe. Same goes for me in his space. I'm not going to his backyard. I'm not going to his neighborhood swimming around. All right? Wait, you always say that? I have said this before. What do you mean you always say that? You've heard me say this before. I've talked about why I'm afraid of going in the ocean. I have respect for the sharks. I don't go into their neighborhood because of my respect for the sharks. Okay. But if they came into my neighborhood, I beat their ass.
Against them. So there's an answer. There's a story. There's a narrative. On the Democratic side, even though Kamala's policies were a trillion times better, there is no story. There is no narrative. Right? So, in other words, what Hasan's point is, and those are good policies Bakari laid out, but let's keep it real. A tax credit is not going to hit as hard as universal health care. Everybody gets health care. It's not going to hit as hard as we're going to raise minimum wage. Everybody's getting, a wage increase. It's not going to hit as hard as you are screwed right now because of billionaires and multinational corporations and the big money donors who have rigged the government in their favor and against you. I'm going to stand up and fight the billionaires and the donor class.
No, you don't understand. Kamala Harris fought the transnational gangs.
And I'm going to return the power to the people and deliver you guys the things that you say you want. So, as I pointed out in the previous segment, there's actually data to back up Hasan's point here, right? This is the data. So, early on in the process, Kamala was leaning heavy into progressive economic issues. Capital gains tax, billionaire tax, corporate accountability, tax the rich, stuff like that, right? And then as time went on, the progressive economic issues fell off, and she started talking.
I wonder why. Why? Oh, I wonder if it was like right around the same time as Tony West was like, yo, Kamala, my sister-in-law, maybe you need to cut it out with this anti-billionaire, anti-corporate messaging.
Talking more broadly about the economy, right? Think wages, jobs, workers, unemployment, whatever, stock market type shit, more general stuff, small business related stuff. So it started out more populist, more progressive, then became less so as time went on and became more general, almost sounding like a moderate Republican more as time went on. And to me, this is the biggest chart to show here. This is some data from Jacobin. They did an analysis of Kamala's rhetoric throughout the campaign. This is the big one right here. So at the very beginning, Kamala was really leaning into anti-elite rhetoric. In other words, she was doing much more of what Hasan wanted her to do, right? It was more bold policy stuff. The policy stuff was front and center, and there was more of an anti-elite narrative around it. Think of the ban on price gouging for groceries. So started out with way more anti-elite rhetoric than pro-democracy rhetoric. And then as time went on, the anti-elite rhetoric fell off a cliff. And at the end, she was just doing democracy stuff. So in other words, copying the Biden 2020 playbook of rule of law and the Constitution and democracy. Now,
to be fair, Biden was more anti-corporate populist than Kamala was in both 2020 and in his administration as well. Biden fucking kept saying, it's not Wall Street. Wall Street didn't build this country. The middle class did. Even then, he should have said workers, but. And the laborers built the middle class. He would say that. I remember.
And that's not to say that stuff isn't important. It is important, and Trump is a threat to those things.
They're beating your ass on Twitter right now.
But from an electoral perspective, the arguments that land better with voters, it's...
Okay, everyone needs to fucking calm down, dude. Oh, my God. It's got 4,000 likes already. That's messed up. That's messed up.
It's the anti-elite stuff. It's the anti-establishment stuff. And at the beginning, she was doing that, and she picked Tim Walz, who's very anti-establishment, very populist, progressive. And there was a brief moment there early on where she was up 7 points in a poll on Trump. 7 points. She ended up losing by 1.5. And as time went by, it was less of the progressive populist stuff, less of the anti-elite stuff, and it became more democracy, copying the 2020 Joe Biden playbook. And so the result was she ended up losing.
Jinkies.
So what Bakari is missing, the implication of what Bakari is saying here is kind of like she did everything she could and it didn't work. That's kind of what his point is.
Stop.
Right? Or there are other factors that Hasan's not taking into consideration, like race and gender, which effectively hurt her because people wouldn't vote for a black woman. These are like the implications of what Bakari's saying. And to be fair, I don't think Hasan would say that was a non-factor. I don't think Hasan would say race and gender played no role whatsoever, right? But Bakari's just kind of wrong that there's nothing she could have done different to win. I just think that's incorrect. And I think we need to learn the lessons for the future. And the reality is, look, Trump might be so horrible for so long that any Democrat with a fucking pulse wins. That's absolutely true. But then if you don't want the same old in terms of policies, and you really want to fix this country, you better hope that it's somebody who's actually anti-elite, actually anti-establishment, who's actually going to deliver on progressive populist policies, right? And so, again, Hasan's right on the macro point. Bakari's not wrong. It's not like it's just policy. The reality is it's policy plus populist messaging and having a narrative and a story.
No, it's also being able to earnestly communicate that. You need to be authentic. You need to be authentic. You need to be able to show Americans that you do genuinely care about this shit. And that's a really hard thing to do to begin with. It's not just about having a good product. You need to be able to sell it too. And the issue is Democrats don't have a good product and they have no good salespersons. They are absolute doo-doo on communicating earnesty. And they don't even give a shit about the good policies either. So it's always like they're always slated for defeat.
And as time went on, she had no narrative, she had no story, and she pretty much dropped the anti-elite rhetoric. And that kind of doomed her, right? So that's the takeaway. God, it's a real shame, right? Because, I don't know, a guy like Bakari Sellers, I don't know if he would ever admit what I'm saying here, right? It's easy to just take that clip of Hasan and react to it and say it's not just about policies. I agree, it's not just about policies. But it's like policies plus the populist progressive narrativizing. That's the big part, man, because we are a lot vibes based. We are. And to just go down your checklist is one thing, even if the things are good and sound good, it's more fits in with human nature to have this grand narrative where you're at the center of it and you're representing the people, the forces of good against the forces of evil. But if you have no forces of evil, and you don't represent that which is good, and your voters don't represent that which is good, it's harder for people to get excited about that, right? And look, it's possible at the end of the day, Kamala is just not the one to deliver that message. But then that is her problem, and that's why I keep saying Jon Stewart 2028, because Jon Stewart hits everything, right? He knows the narrative, he knows the story.
Oh my God. We're so cooked, bro.
He knows who the villains are, and you have to represent those popular policies with that narrative, right? And again, Kamala did have some good policies, but it wasn't tied with a narrative, and she didn't continue with the early on strategy, which was working well.
I guess Jon Stewart would be better than like most of the Democrats.
The Biden team came in there and really screwed the pooch 1,000 times over. A lot of the Biden people came in there. They said, drop the weird stuff, drop the we're not going back stuff, stop leaning into the ban on price gouging stuff, talk more about democracy. Here, do 17 events with Liz Cheney. And that's the other thing. I don't know if Bakari is willing to reckon with the fact that that stuff certainly did not help and almost definitely hurt. Running around with Liz Cheney everywhere was a horrible idea. It's a horrible idea. It really undercuts your message if you're trying to say, Trump and the Republicans are a threat to democracy, and here I am campaigning with a Republican. It really does kind of undercut your message. And so, I think it was a much bigger problem. I'm going to go right wing on the border. I'm going to talk about owning a Glock. I'm going to run around with Liz Cheney. I think that stuff hurt way more than it helped. And the evidence of that is, again, Trump got 94% of the Republican vote in 2020, and he got 94% of the Republican vote in 2024. And so that strategy just objectively didn't get them across the finish line. And what I